Entrepreneurs Forum podcast. Today I am very excited because me and the lovely Lora Lapiz have been trying to sit down and have a conversation for about 6 months. So today is the official day that she and I actually get to record this podcast for you. And without further ado, here is the lovely Lora. Hi, Lora. Welcome to the super fun podcast that this is.
Thank you, Lenora. Wonderful to be here and just an honor to share this discussion with you and your audience.
Definitely. I love that. What is the most important thing for people to know about you right out of the gate?
So one of the amazing parts is my life has been so dynamic that I bring what I call, well, two things. One, I've always lived my life from a place of curiosity. So it is just this amount of what is something I don't know. And so it's always brought in the understanding of help me understand a different perspective of life. And I spent earlier part of my life in the medical and public health world, understanding study design and how behavior works. And I went from understanding and have a degree in neuroscience. So it was this scientific basis of biological behavior. Mm-hmm. And it was like the scientists, like, why do some people do things and other people don't? And this then translated that throughout the career before becoming an entrepreneur is I had these other parallel tracks to, I'll just call it the corporate world, is I became an outdoor adventurer. I was an unathletic kid. I was quiet. I barely spoke. I was socially awkward. And then I discovered outdoors, and it was hiking, and then it was steeper hikes. And then next thing you know, it was rock climbing. And like, I literally didn't know that I was capable of all the, like, I was an unathletic kid. Like, it just like the thought of going from doing nothing to like being on the top of a 17,000 foot mountain just doesn't really make sense, right? But I played this curiosity. It was just, what am I capable of? What can I do? So it wasn't just the knowledge on the scientific side, but it was kind of physically what I was capable of doing. And then in parallel, I also wanted to understand ancient wisdom and philosophy and religions. And so again, it's just having this other perspective on what worked. And then also, I discovered international travel. I had this light bulb moment when I was 21 years old, where I went from going through a lot of grief as a kid. I lost my father, my best friend, all this understanding. Again, it's why I got a degree in neuroscience, but also didn't commit suicide, was life is short. Okay, life is short. We're here. It's here to be lived. So travel. So I started traveling internationally, and you expand like the cultural perspectives. You know, I mean, I've actually traveled to more developing countries than developed countries. So what's important to somebody in Kenya is different to what's important to somebody in Italy, which is different to somebody in Thailand. And when you start to understand that, your conversations with others becomes very different.
So different. Oh my gosh. I love that you mentioned that. You and I have so much in common because I definitely was not into sports. I think one of the big distinctions is that you mentioned about being curious, and I was so timid, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I'm not that type of person, or, you know, the variety of words that would go off in my head. And then I discovered the outdoors thanks to my husband. And I had always loved traveling. So then when you combine the outdoors and traveling internationally, huge, huge difference. And you're totally right. The conversation, massively different.
Yeah. It's you can't even pinpoint it until you start to do it, because it's about the experiences that you start to have in the world. And then it's about applying those experiences, which is actually going to be what we're going to dive into. It's about applying those experiences into the rest of what you do.
Oh, completely. How do you integrate it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. What about the outdoors and nature? What about that spoke to you that you kept kind of moving into it, going, this is, I definitely need to move into this?
Well, a lot of it was, I'll call it, say, in retrospect, I didn't understand why I love to be outside, why I became a rock climber, and why I spent every Wednesday from spring to fall. It was our rock climbing club got together after work, and that was my sacred time. I was outside, and I didn't even realize what it was. Is it was moving meditation while touching earth. Okay, and when you look, like, a lot of this I discovered in retrospect, that I was like, for me, it was, I wasn't an adrenaline junkie. That it wasn't, how hard I could climb or anything. It was just, there was this beautiful peacefulness to it. And now even nature comes out. There's so much science now on the benefits of nature. It lowers your cortisol, it lowers your stress level. And there's like so many, and even being around pine trees and terpenes, and I could bore you with the level of science, but it's amazing what it can do. And nature is harmonic in itself. So when you're out in nature, it's being reflected back to you.
That is so stunning. I love how you called it a moving meditation. Oh my gosh, that just feels so good, because it really, I can definitely see how it can become that. And I know your specialty, it really helps people navigate decision fatigue, and
Yeah.
how that really, or where their ability to make a clear decision versus not being able to make a clear decision can really navigate. And you help them with nature and stuff. And you're right, there are a number of books and so much interesting science around it these days. Absolutely. When it comes to being neurodivergent, I know you speak to individuals who experience neurodivergency, and how they can help make those decisions, correct?
Yeah, so the lovely, amazing part is when you're neurodivergent is your level of depth is very, very deep. I mean, you can go to miles under the ocean, far and wide. And the greatest thing is you have deep pattern recognition, you have sensitivity, and you also usually have, I mean, you're usually quite smart, okay? But the thing is because you can see all of these little pieces, you get overwhelmed. So you have so many inputs that it's learning how to decipher. So the way I tend to put it is there's more of like an awareness scale. Is, yeah, you can see everything, you can feel everything, but it overwhelms you. And what people don't tend to realize when you're neurodivergent, it's not too much of like too much knowledge per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of the other sensory pieces that are coming together. So when you, or you're also, even if you're very empathic neurodivergent, some are, some aren't, you
Mm-hmm.
might even be absorbing the energy of other people. So on that awareness scale is, can you start deciphering and understand your cognitive load of what information is yours versus somebody else's? Because when you have to get to that decision making, you have to understand, are other inputs kind of controlling the circumstance?
Yeah.
I'd actually have to say, when you're, I mean, a lot of people try to control circumstances, people, and other things. Well, like neurodivergents tend to do it even more, because they're trying to hold their own bubble, their own place. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, you become so protective that you don't get the right information,
Yeah.
or your inputs are the wrong information. So it's learning literally how to hone in on the signal, what's actually that true source, so you can make those decisions and navigate in that uncertainty, in which you recognize, like, our world right now is very uncertain. But when
Oh
you
yeah.
can do that really well and you are so solid, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world.
I love that you mentioned about an awareness scale, especially because we can say, oh, we're self-aware or we're hyper vigilant. And especially if anybody looks out into the culture, you really see those extremes. But how you shared that it's a scale is really powerful. How do you teach that to people, and help
So
them decipher between hypervigilance and a healthy awareness?
So getting back to kind of some terms that most people tend to use that they don't even realize. So
Oh yeah.
when we talked about like guarded and being hyper vigilant, you know, a lot of people have had trauma in this world. It's almost hard to say people haven't had some type of trauma somewhere in their life
Yeah.
or in their generation. So you're guarded, you're hyper vigilant. So the idea is, think of it as more of, are you a sponge? Okay.
Ooh, that's a good one.
But are you the sponge that is absorbing everything because you're hyper vigilant? Okay. I mean, I was on a call with somebody who, you know, the nature of online Zoom calls and so forth. And there was a beep on their refrigerator. And you could tell their attention immediately left and came back. And they got so distracted because of that one little ding. The difference is when you're a sponge versus what I'll say being like a solid ball, is that you have the awareness of I'll call it the ding on the refrigerator. Maybe a car is passing your house or, you know, something, but it doesn't affect who you are. Nice. And you literally can decipher in that moment of like, okay, heard that, not needed. Because when you can actually start to realize you have this massive amount of awareness, but the only part that you really need to focus on is like 5 to 10%. It starts to become quite wild in the fact that you just literally navigate and walk and take each step in a very different manner.
Was there ever a moment in time where you noticed the ding and then realized, oh, this is a choice? Oh, I can keep focusing. What was that like for you?
When I was able to really, I mean, hey, at one point, I was that sponge. I was absorbing other things, other people, and I wasn't making the right choices. You know, you think, oh, it's your intuition, right? It's like, oh, like, you know, you're not just your intelligence, use your intuition and bring it together. Well, when that intuition actually isn't accurate, you actually make really fast wrong decisions. Oh, so wow. when you tend to think of this, like, entrepreneurs, we're under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of things to get done. But the idea is when you're more of that solid ball, you're stable. Okay? And neurodivergence can be really smart. And I've even seen a lot of like tech people. It's amazing how fast they can move and design and create. Yeah. But the way I called it is this software engineer built like a skyscraper technology, phenomenal, for somebody who was never even going to use it. Like the foundation wasn't there. So the idea is we have to work on that initial foundation, get our safety in line, our security in line, and we have to get stable. And most people don't, you know, these are words people aren't necessarily comfortable with. But when you get stable under pressure and not stoic, not, hi, I'm going to give you the face, everything is great, and internally they're crumbling. And I'm going to call men out. You do this all the time. A lot of male leaders do this. I'm a stoic. You can't hurt me. Meanwhile, it's like inside, they're like trying to process and do, even look at my hands right now. Like this is what they're doing inside, but they're like, I'm good. Right. Yeah. And it's about becoming stable on the inside. And when we're stable on the inside, that translates to everything on the outside.
That's awesome. How do you work with clients on that and how to raise their awareness to their foundation and what their foundation looks like and what it could even possibly be?
So I start with my TEDx talk that just came out, The Keys to Innate Intelligence, gives a very just kind of broad overview of where we can first start. And this is where it's really the 3 Ps. And
I love the way that you shared that.
Thank you. It's starting with our perception, okay? If we're stuck, what other perspectives do we need to hear? Just like we talked about the traveling and these other things, is what is another perspective? But most likely when you're neurodivergent, you don't need another perspective. You actually have 5,000 perspectives. So you then need to start filtering all that. And that's what I call purity. It's about purifying those things. Most people don't even know what's important to them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you and I have done the deep work ourselves.
For sure.
But if you don't know what your priorities are, if you don't know what's important to you, if you don't know what your values are, you're just walking aimlessly with no guidance. And it's not that.
I almost want to say somebody else, some dogma. You almost want to say you're going off of somebody else's, like, this is what you were taught. I definitely had a ton thinking like, oh, this is what you do. And that's what you do. And then once I started to raise my awareness going, well, whose thought is this? Where did I even get this? Do I even want this? It is not an easy, especially in the world of entrepreneur, because you come up against a lot of those shadows or a lot of that inner conflict.
Yeah.
Often once you start to do that.
Absolutely. And most of the people,
purity process is great.
Yeah. And most people don't realize the inner conflict.
Yeah.
It's your values. Your values are being stepped on. But most people, sometimes you don't realize it is a value until it makes you angry. And it's not that angry is a bad thing. We've been taught anger is bad. Now, anger is bad when you project it onto somebody else. Okay. But anger just really says the situation isn't right. I don't know if it's somebody else or me or something else.
Yeah.
And there's a correction that's needed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Very
like
much so.
we blow it into like making all these other assumptions and metaphors, and at the same time is anger is just the crashing of a wave on the ocean. That's it.
It's so funny. I love that you lead with perception too, because I used to think anger was bad. And I had one teacher and they had pointed out and I thought anger as in like being nasty to somebody or coming across, especially as a female, coming across really, really nasty. And they had said, no, there's times where you really want that. And I thought, no, I never want to come across that nasty. And they're like, and what if somebody's trying to rob you? Oh,
yeah,
that's a good point, because now you start to shift your perception and your awareness of what lens am I looking from? And then going through the purity process, I think, is really powerful. And even think about this, we purify our water. So why wouldn't we recognize to do that to ourselves?
Yeah. I mean, it's, purifying our thoughts, purifying where we are, purifying your environment. I mean, there's a point when the excess clutter, no matter, if it's thoughts, paper and stuff in an office, to anything, your to-do list, your priorities, your overcommitments, where do things need to be purified?
Definitely. Now, you mentioned there were 4 P's. So we have perception, purity. What are
the third one is precision. So this is about when we really start to hone in on the synchronicities, where things start to happen because after you purify, you happen to be in the right time at the right place. And it's a precision moment. And
very much so.
This is about, as I said, it's the synchronicities. And when you bring together all 3 of these, perception, purity, precision, you get present. So I put this all together in a triangle.
You put 4 P's in a triangle? That's cool.
Well, I put the 3 P's into a triangle because what this leads to is presence. And when you're fully present, okay, when you're fully present, there's no past. I call it your perceived past.
Yeah.
There's no fearful future. And you are only in the moment, right here, right now. You and I are right here, right now, having this conversation. And that's the only thing of importance.
I love that. That's beautiful. I almost feel like there might be something in like for your branding and your the way that you share, especially like in a jewelry piece or something. to help people keep that image in the mind. Because 4Ps, I love I'm a person who loves a good connection, especially with
Yeah.
letters and language. But even with that image, that just beautifully solidified everything. Very much
Yeah.
so. I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, I would encourage people to take a look at the TEDx talk.
So
It's called
good.
"The Keys to Innate Intelligence" because it has the image on it. And what happens is when we come to presence, that's then when I call it we have discernment. And
Discernment.
that's when, and I'm using the term applied discernment because we then
Hmm.
apply what we know, what's going on in this moment, and you can make a decision. And this is
Very
where
much.
you start navigating uncertainty. This is
Hmm.
where I've traveled all over the world that you could literally drop me off in any country and I can figure out my way around. I'm not going to say
Hmm.
it's going to be easy, but I can figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's because I've worked with this framework and it's what I do. And when you apply this discernment, you make those decisions or you know when to not make the decision. I mean, how many
Hmm.
times in entrepreneurship are you people rushing you to make decisions
Yeah.
versus it's really not urgent.
Yeah. I love that. That is so powerful. Another P right there. But that
Yep.
is really, really powerful. How do you, and I especially love it because you embody it. How do you like to share it and teach it as you, or even in your everyday life? What do you notice how it's shifted your mindset, even from, think back like 5 years ago or 10 years ago? What's different about how your thoughts are and how you move through the day?
So it's very interesting. I tend to, I don't actually use the word mindset anymore. This is all subtle frequencies. And this,
Okay.
goes into probably a much even deeper, deeper conversation
Hmm.
that the frequencies guide you. And this is where
Okay.
neurodivergence, they're sensitive to these
Hmm.
little, the frequencies that are around us all the time. And
Hmm.
I notice the littlest things. I notice when somebody says something and it applies to a conversation that I end up having 2 days later.
Oh,
Like there's a mental note of like, oh, that was very interesting what they
that's
said.
synchronicity. Yeah.
Wasn't applicable to my life at that moment, but okay,
Hmm.
note, file away to, oh
Yeah.
wow, that's part of my conversation. To even things that driving, I don't get mad if I miss a turn.
Hmm.
I actually had this incident where I was going somewhere where I didn't normally go and I took a wrong turn. Took me 10 minutes out of my way. Wasn't mad.
Yeah.
Okay. No mad, just followed what it was. I gone the normal way,
Hmm.
there was a major accident at that intersection. I actually almost did this like background and there's
Yeah.
ambulances and fire trucks and I was like, wow, like I was guided into
Yeah.
safety and was not in a major accident. Like
Hmm.
how beautiful was that?
Right.
So these are the things where people don't step on the plane or like they were 5 minutes late because they are not part of it. So we have to
Hmm.
understand that sometimes things happen the way they're meant to happen and we just have to understand to go with the flow of it.
Hmm. I love that. That is super powerful.
Thank you.
What is next for you, especially with this framework? And I love that you mentioned that it is on your TEDx, the framework. The image is on the TEDx.
So I do have I call it the presence diagnostic on my website and it's just basic overview of kind of where you are,
Hmm.
and soon that will be up is actually going to be an awareness ladder so people can start to have that understanding of where they are.
Yeah.
And for those that are interested in joining me on a retreat, reach out to me. And because this is where practicing your awareness in nature
Hmm.
and then learning how to apply it to the rest of your life is so important.
I was going to say, how do you incorporate nature into it? Because I feel like you do. That's
Oh,
beautiful.
of course. So it's
Ah,
it's a key place where you can play with your awareness in a very safe environment.
Okay.
And you can start to feel the things that you didn't realize you are feeling and bring it to
Hmm.
that conscious awareness.
That is beautiful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that piece. Anything else that you feel like you want to share with us, or anything else that our audience might be able to truly benefit from? Other than, I mean, you shared a ton, which is amazing. I don't know if there was anything else that you thought like, oh yeah, there's one more piece.
I think when people are overwhelmed,
Yeah.
is first tap your feet. Make sure
Oh, that's a
you're
good one.
fully, it's more than just sometimes taking a breath. Tap
Hmm.
your feet. This is why even
Yeah.
just going for a walk outside is really
Yeah.
beneficial. And to recognize, just once you're present, what's the next step?
Hmm.
Or what's most important right now. It could be calling a loved one because for some reason in the morning you got that hit that you're supposed to call so and so and you haven't done it today.
Yeah.
You never know why these things happen, but just what's most important right now. That's it.
I feel like as you talk about it, it's really moving in the beauty of life,
Hmm.
moving with life. Yeah. And being
And
fully
beauty
present.
beauty is always around us.
Yes, very much so. Thank you so much for all that you shared with us, Laura. For anybody that wants to reach out to you, what is the best way to reach out to you? I know we'll have stuff in the show notes. I didn't know if there was a very specific way also.
Defy Logik with a K is my website, and be happy to serve others in that capacity.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. We will have all that great information in the show notes. Thank you to our wonderful listeners for being here and spending time with Laura and I. And I have no doubt that you got just as much as I did out of this conversation. So until next time, everyone, stay well.
Great. Thank you. Honored to share.
Thank you.